I'm Katie Cowan, and this is the Creative Boom Podcast. Welcome back. This week's guest is Tom Geismar, the acclaimed American graphic designer famous for creating some of the world's most recognizable and enduring brands. Tom is a founding member of Shemaev, Geismar and Haviv, the highly respected design firm in New York City, which he began with friends Ivan Shemaev and Robert Brownjohn in 1957. Together, they became renowned for their fresh and creative approach to companies such as Pan Am, Chase Bank and PBS, which paved the way for the design industry we know today. During his incredible career, Tom has created memorable work across print, packaging and environmental. There are many highlights, including his impactful work for Xerox, which created a new standard for design in corporate communications, his special relationship with Mobil over 35 years, as well as his unique take on exhibitions, bringing together many creative disciplines to create standout designs for the Statue of Liberty Museum, Ellis Island Museum, and many more. It's no wonder he's considered a pioneer in the field. In this episode, we talk about those early days in New York City when a great cultural shift was afoot and the design industry was a completely different landscape back then. We hear of their first office, a tiny bedroom in an apartment which featured a desk, an old door propped up on makeshift legs, of which Tom sat across from his then partner and mentor, Brownjohn. There's some insight into some of his favourite projects, and we learn of some of his regrets, how his practice has changed over the decades, and why they have kept their design firm deliberately small. We hear what Tom thinks of new technology like DALL-E and how he feels about graphic design today. For someone described as a sweetheart by New York's design community, Tom is a brilliant mind that has won many awards and continues to enjoy being part of his practice today, even after 65 years in the business. Thank you very much for joining me, Tom. It's an honour to be chatting with you today.
Thanks. I'm glad we finally got to make this all work.
I know. It is a bit sort of, it's part of my job description just to sort of be, the tech administrator, the kind of stroke journalist, general person of annoyance. Now, you've been in this business for quite a while, if you don't mind me saying. Your branding and design firm was established over 65 years ago in New York City, my gosh, with friends Ivan and Robert. I hope you don't mind me using everybody's first names. What are your standout memories from back then, when it was in such a very different world to the one we have today?
Yeah, just yesterday, been working with someone to put some of the history on our website, which we really haven't had. And looking back at some of that, as you say, it was a very different world at that time. A very small world, actually, in the graphic design world. I think almost everyone who was in it knew each other and were sort of friends. Even though we were competing, we were personal friends and so on. So it was a very different time. And of course, very hands-on in terms of the work and so on. So also in that sense, it was a very, very different time.
Yeah, and I get the impression that, like New York, even though it's a lot bigger now and there's so much more competition in the design industry, and we're also global. I get the impression from people I chat with that it still has this village feel, even now.
I don't know whether that's true or not. Personally, I don't know. For the past 2.5 years, when the COVID pandemic came about, we've had a house out of the city, out on Long Island for 50 years, and never used it more than for 2 weeks or weekends. And so we decided to come out here for 2 weeks in March of 2020 and been here ever since. So, I've sort of been out of the social thing, haven't gone into a restaurant, haven't done anything. We've been concerned about COVID, and we've been fine, but sort of living a different life for the past 2.5 years, as I guess many people have. So that especially has cut out a lot of the social aspects. Not that there was that much of it, but in terms of the profession. On the other hand, what's sort of crazy is that with the technology, and especially with Zoom and so on, we've been able to work full time and been busier than ever during this period. So it's sort of a crazy. Our office is, we have people come back 2 days a week at this point, which is what I think a lot of people do, but only because we have to pay a lot of rent. We had signed a new lease right before the pandemic. So we have this space. So for 2 days a week, and we sort of bribe them to come in by buying lunch and whatever. But it all, for us, works just fine doing it remotely. And I mean, remotely in the sense that some of the people are in other parts of the world. We have a Korean designer who just came back this weekend from a month in Korea, and she worked. I mean, the hours are sort of crazy for her because she had to work on our hours, but did that. Another was in Japan, and it all works. So it's a very different world, certainly from what it was in the late 1950s when we first came together.
The era of Mad Men.
Yeah, we were never part of that. We never felt that we were part of the agency world. Was just a different world from the world we were in. Even though we occasionally did things, we were hired occasionally by agencies and so on. But it was a very different world. Same time, parallel, I guess. But
yeah, so much has changed since then. It was in an era really on the cusp of enormous cultural change. What did that feel like as graphic designers back then? What kind of challenges did you face?
I think any of us, are influenced by certain periods in our lives. And, it depends on our age as an individual and what's going on in the world. So we came together in 1958. And then, the 60s, I mean, the late 50s and the 60s were a really, incredibly tumultuous time, but also a very creative time. And it was just so influential and so great to be part of that at that time. I mean, when I went to school, I went to a university, but I did it because it was next door to a very good design school, Rhode Island School of Design. But they did not have a course in graphic design. That was not something that was offered at that time. Today, it's become, I think, the most popular course in art schools certainly throughout the States. But at that time, there were very few schools offering anything in graphic design. It wasn't even a word or a name that many people knew. And it was only by chance that I ended up going to Yale for graduate school, where they had just started a couple of years before a new design under Joseph Albers, who was redoing the school. I knew nothing about it, but a teacher at Rhode Island School of Design recommended I look into it. It basically changed my life. And at that time, the teachers were all the leading designers certainly in the U.S., many of whom were emigres from Europe who had come before or during the Second World War.
Gosh.
So it was a special time. And then the 60s were so tumultuous. So many things happened in the world, and we were sort of part of that. And so it was, for me, the most influential time of my life, I think, both as a person and as a designer.
Did you sort of realize you were going through such a kind of cultural shift, or was it much like now? What's happening now? We know there's a lot happening and a lot of change going on, but it's only, when you've got the benefit of hindsight that you can look back and say, oh gosh, that was truly a massive change.
Yeah, I'm not sure you're aware of it when you're in the middle of it, but we knew a lot was, there was just it was still on a show here in New York of an art show from, I think, the early to mid 60s, held at the Jewish Museum here in the city. And I remember that show so clearly. It was just such an eye-opener, and it included almost everyone, all the artists who became famous right after that. And it was just, here was suddenly this show. And we were doing things where we had a large exhibit of pop art, for example, that we designed and curated in the early 60s. Before it was a name.
That's incredible.
You were part of that. I guess we were part of that that whole scene. And then when President Kennedy was assassinated, which we took as a terrible blow, shortly after that, we were contacted by the Kennedy family. And we always thought it was a mistaken identity or something. We're not sure how they came to us, but could we do something that could help raise funds for an eventual presidential library for the Kennedys? So we did that, and that started a long relationship of, a decade really, with the family, and eventually designing all the exhibits for the Kennedy Presidential Library after many stops and starts and so on. So things were very much happening in the world generally and in the world of art and design at that time. Of course, there were all the terrible things and assassinations and whatever also. But it was a very tumultuous time, as is today, for sure.
Yeah, you were moving from the baby boom and the kind of nucleus family to the sexual revolution. And did you see that sort of have an impact on the briefs that were coming through? That change from the sort of 50s innocence to the summer of love of the 60s?
When you're caught up in the middle of it, I'm not sure...
You don't really notice.
how where you are. It's just the world that you're dealing with. And it was exciting and, tumultuous. And we were, lucky that it was the start of something in terms of design and graphics. So we were sort of, ahead of it. I mean, we were really on an exact path with, what is now Pentagram and Total Design in Amsterdam. It's not that we were unique. It was happening in many parts of the world. In fact, we put out a joint publication with what was then Fletcher Forbes Gill and Total Design, showing trademarks we had done. The book was divided into thirds, and it was, we each had our chapters, if you will.
That's fantastic. You were kind of pioneers then in that case, would you say?
Yeah, I'd say we were a second generation after those people I was describing as our teachers, people like Lester Beale and Alexei Brodovich, Herbert Matter. There was a whole bunch of really Leo Leone, incredible people who all were on their own. I think the thing that we did, which was unique, and I think it also, just to an extent, goes with Pentagram, is that we wanted to base the idea of our office on more of an architectural office. That's why we gave it our names rather than making up a name. Which is a bit difficult for anyone to pronounce for years. But it was the idea of being a collaborative, as opposed to individuals, because all those great designers that I mentioned, they all pretty much worked on their own. Or they might be the art director of a publication or something, but it wasn't a group. And we had this idea of much more working together that I think was not usual at that time.
And it worked very well for you because, you and your friends, Ivan and Robert, you kind of went on to develop an agency that has lasted and built such a legacy ever since. How did you all work so well together? Were there ever any kind of disagreements, shall we say?
I think we did work well together. Fortunately, we always had a lot of work to do, even if it was nothing special. So there were not disagreements, about things like that and about work and about the office. We started out with one assistant, and then we had to get a couple more. So then we had to move. We went through changes. The biggest, of course, was with Brownjohn and how that evolved. But in our first offices, our office was like a 2-bedroom apartment, and it literally was. And he and I shared one of the rooms. And the desk was a big, hollow core door, 7-foot or 8-foot door up on just some makeshift legs. And so he sat on one side of it and I sat on the other side of it. And that for me was a great experience because BJ was so intense and so smart, and it was really a very eye-opening. Plus, working so closely with someone, which I had never done before, was for me a terrific experience. He did a famous book jacket, which was called Passing Time, was the title of the book. And what he did, he used to sit there, be on the phone, he'd be smoking, and he'd be scribbling, just doing doodling. And when this project came in to do a book jacket, he just ripped off the paper he had been doodling on, and that became the jacket.
Wow.
For the book.
Very creative. That's a real New York story, isn't it? Of, hard work and a little dose of luck and perhaps being in the right place at the right time, but obviously heaps of talent. But starting from very small to what you have now and everything you've achieved along the way. That is a true New York story.
Well, the office has always been very informal, and we've always tried to keep it fairly small so that we could have a very hands-on role in it, because we always wanted to design and not be administrators.
Yeah.
And to some extent, we've been able to do that, not consistently, but pretty much as possible. But it's been a goal, at least, to have that, not to get bigger than we could handle.
Yeah,
personally.
it's very difficult to stay deliberately small.
Yep.
Especially when you have all these opportunities coming your way.
Well, you somehow find a way.
You do. I'm speaking from personal experience, Tom.
Yeah.
So how's it feel today compared to back then? Does it feel familiar to any moments over the years, or is today and what's happening unique, would you say?
Well, it's certainly as tumultuous as it was back then. And it's scary as it was back then. The whole thing in Ukraine today, and
yeah,
the Bay of Pigs, which we remember, clearly was exactly in that time. I don't know, was it 62, I think. So it's a lot of that, what's happening, which is very, very disturbing. And the difference, of course, is today everything is so much faster, and we know everything that's happening everywhere immediately, and which has good and certainly bad consequences.
Definitely. Does it impact your mental health, Tom? Is mental health something that's completely new to you, compared to sort of, your younger years when you were working in that office with your friend, working from a door?
I don't know. I mean, I think that's one of the things, and this may be just a personal thing, but, still working full time, I find I can concentrate on what I'm doing and what our issues are, our local issues. And it's funny because I still read the newspaper every day. Now I know that's, I have it delivered and
Nice.
and read it. But other than that, try to avoid, so know what's going on, but try not to avoid things we have no control over. So being busy, and working and having other interests has really made it possible to live a reasonable life. Plus, this place that we moved to, for temporarily at least, is quite lovely, and go out and take a walk, and the ocean is 10-minute walk away, and beautiful beach and whatever. So
Sounds lovely.
It's a much calmer than the city.
I'm smiling because I hope you don't mind me saying, but you are in your 90s now. Is that right?
Yeah, 91.
Oh, good grief. You don't look it, Tom. I think part of your secret is that you've carried on working and keeping yourself active, but it just makes me laugh because there's so many people here in the UK leaving cities to go to the countryside, and they're just in their sort of third decade of life, whereas you've just only escaped the hustle and bustle. Would you, in that case, say you're a city boy?
Well, I didn't grow up in the city, but ever since I got out of the Army and joined Ivan and Brownjohn, I lived in the city, and I liked living in the city. And I'm married, and we had 3 children, and they all grew up in the city. Of course, none of them now live in the city. No, I like the city very much, and we live right a block away from the Metropolitan Museum of Art, and I love going there. And it's all the cultural things in the city are great. When you can't do them, or you're worried about doing them, then it becomes something else.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. New York itself has seen so much change over the years. Would you ever consider, apart from where you are now, would you ever consider living anywhere else in the world? Is there anywhere else that inspires you?
No, I think we really liked living in New York, in the city. I think as long as you can make use of it. And I've always thought it'd be a great place to retire to and so on. I mean, there's just so much that goes on. Same as London. We love London and go there often. But no, for us, it's worked well. But this has also worked well in these past few years, given the circumstances.
You got the best of both worlds. And I'm sure you'll probably be back in the city very soon.
This weekend.
Brilliant. So we'll talk about your work now, Tom. I mean, obviously you've designed hundreds of logos, and this is probably a question you get asked many times, but are there any that stand out to you that are particular favorites, or is that just impossible to answer?
Well, it's very difficult to separate your whole experience with someone or an entity or something from that question. And also, the whole thing is kind of weird because the ones people always name and talk about are ones that have become famous or they've done well. It doesn't mean they were necessarily the best designs or whatever, but it's just life that way. And when you ask people, for example, what they think is a really good logo, they'll always talk about entities that they respect. The Apple is good, Nike is good, and whatever. They'll never say Enron, for example. Enron had a great logo that Paul Rand did for them, but the company is a disaster. And so people will never say that was a good logo. I mean, so it's very hard to separate them. But in the same way, personally, it is. So for me, the one that had the most meaning was what we did for Mobil Oil. But that's because I spent, I think it was 35 years as their official design consultants, and were very much an integral part of everything they did in terms of design and art. Ivan did many posters and things for the cultural events that they were sponsoring, which they did for many, many years. We were in charge of their buying and placing art in all their offices around the world.
Wow.
And that ended up being thousands of things, really, over the years. And I was in charge of all the design for the service stations and packaging and whatever. And it was a very close relationship. We made a lot of friends there. Again, it was a very different time. All the people we dealt with over the years, and there were, I don't know, probably hundreds, every one of them had spent their entire career there.
Good grief.
Today, that's completely unheard of.
That really is.
But that was the case. And there was a culture there that they respected us and we respected them. And so it was a really meaningful experience. When they were, I don't know, bought out or merged with Exxon in 1995, that was the end of our relationship. And that Exxon apparently had a completely different culture.
It's all about people, isn't it?
Well, it's people, and there are different cultures, and they're usually determined from the top down. And while Mobil had a very strong culture, we went through, I don't know, 4 or 5 different regimes in terms of chairman and so on, but they managed to perpetuate a particular culture. So Mobil, for example, was, they started the whole thing of advertising on op-ed pages. And I think it started the whole idea of op-ed pages. You don't see it much anymore here, but where they would state their opinions, whether you agree with them or not. they would do that. They did a lot in the UK also of that. And other things. They were sort of out there. This is who we are. This is what we believe in, you know. So today, I know the oil and gas companies are questioned, but I always wondered what would have happened with Mobil if they had stayed separate from Exxon.
Yeah, that's interesting.
In these times, yeah.
Are there any kind of you regret, or is that too dangerous a question for you, Tom?
No, it's not dangerous. You know, one of the things that happened very early on in terms of the office, I think it was like 1963 or something, we were asked by the United States Information Agency. At the time, there was a whole cultural exchange program between the United States and the Soviet Union.
Right.
And we were asked to help and get the AIGA, American Institute of Graphic Arts, to put together an exhibit of American graphic arts. And that was done, you know, for a period of years, and I mean, a year, I think. And we designed an exhibition, and we were always involved with architecture and architects and so on. And we designed a whole structural system and everything where this exhibit could be up for a month, say in Moscow, and then it could be torn down and moved to Yerevan or other cities and so on.
Sure.
It turned out to be the most popular exhibit that the U.S. ever did. And it was interesting. I mean, it was so popular because all we did was show, for example, you know, 100 book covers, a lot of record album covers. We showed packaging. I mean, very, very mundane in a sense things, but people in the Soviet Union had never seen these things. And we have photos of people waiting in line for hours in the snow to see this exhibit. But it also got us interested in the idea of exhibition design and using graphics and communication in exhibition format. So we ended up being the exhibit designers for the United States Government Pavilion at the World's Fair in Montreal, 1967, and then in Osaka, Japan in 1970, which were great experiences. I mean, they were, to me, were really exciting. And then we ended up, as I mentioned, with the Kennedy Presidential Library and the Harry Truman Presidential Library. We put together a new museum for the Statue of Liberty in New York when it was done, and then at Ellis Island designed all the original. Those things I found extremely interesting and fun because you'd end up doing a lot of research and so on, which I enjoyed. But to do those, you needed a fairly large staff, and so we ended up in the 80s and 90s with 35, almost 40 people at times, including historians, writers, people to do mechanical drawings and so on and so forth. And then those projects often go along, and then suddenly there's a 6-month hiatus, where they have to raise more money or something or whatever, and you have all these people on staff, and what do you do with them and so on. So it became somewhat of a managerial issue, a difficulty, but nevertheless, the projects were really interesting. And in I don't know, 2003 or 4, Ivan especially disliked, or he felt he was losing control when we did these large projects with so many people and so on. So we essentially decided to split up our office at that point, finally in 2005. and that we would just do graphics, and a lot of the people who were associates and so on in the firm who were doing exhibition design and so on would form their own firm, which they have to this day, and they're very successful.
Great.
Which they call C&G Associates. And that we would just stick to something that we could have a very small office, and that we could easily control. So my regret is not having those projects, which I found extremely interesting. The exhibition things and the research and so on that went into it.
That's really interesting to hear you sort of talk through the kind of learning that went through that era. And yeah, it's sad that we have to sometimes let these things go to open up other doors elsewhere, because that's a lot of people to manage.
Yeah, it probably, given our age and everything, it probably made sense. And today there are many, many more people involved in those kind of exhibition and environmental design kind of disciplines, which is great. I think I just personally miss it.
Yes. So how do you think, Tom, logo design has changed in, say, even just the past decade? Because today it relates to, say, design systems, much larger design systems that companies are now embracing. Is it that it's more than just a single great logo these days?
I think it always has been, and I don't think it really has changed that much. It's funny because we now, the big thing now is it has to work as an app. It has to work at tiny sizes on your phone and whatever. But we never knew what an app was or what an iPhone was or anything. We always tried to do things that were really simple, that could work in different sizes, different scales, if you will, and different materials. That was always important to us. And so something like the Chase Bank logo, works perfectly in this medium, even though we obviously never had any idea that it would be an issue at some point in the future. So for us, it really hasn't changed that much. And we often will show a whole page, let's say for a new client, a page of maybe 24 logos that we've done. And then we'll put the dates that they were done. And the dates could be last week or 50 years ago.
Good grief.
And, they're obviously different one from the other, but not in terms of how they work. So in that sense, there's not much change. And the idea of design systems, what you have to design for is very different, but not the idea of design systems. That I think has always, but certainly since the 60s and so on, has been part of that. Very much a part of it. It's just the particular issues are different today.
Definitely, and have evolved.
Yeah.
Speaking of technology, it's obviously changed quite a bit throughout your profession. Do you embrace it, or do you pine for what was perhaps before?
I think the most important part of the technology is a pencil and paper. Yeah. And that hasn't changed. And we teach a class here in New York at the School of Visual Arts, and it's about designing logos and things. And we insist that the students start out using a pencil or a marker or whatever on paper, not using the computer, because it's just much more freeing. And to some of them, it freaks them out, but they do it. The other parts of it, today it's so much easier to show. One thing we do when we're designing logos and things is we try to show not just the logo, We never just want to show the logo, but to show how it works. And we do a lot of testing of that ourselves to see how it works in various applications, and often throw it out because it's not working. It's really the only test. So it used to be quite difficult to do those things. If we're showing a letterhead, we'd have to actually make kind of a letterhead, paste it up, or anything more complicated was even more so. Or if you're going to show how it would work on a glass door or something, you'd have to get a piece of glass and get someone to etch it and so on. Today, it's, we can do all of it in Photoshop and whatever. So we're able to show many more examples of how something might work and to show it more effectively. So that's been great. The thing that is slightly not a regret, I guess is to say it, is all the services that we all used to use have all gone by the boards pretty much. Mm. You would send out, if you needed typeset, you would send it out. The typesetters would work overnight, and in the morning on your desk would be proofs of what you had sent. If you needed an image, you'd have to send it out to a photostat shop for them to do it. So on and so forth. The printers, we worked closely with the printers because everything was printed, and you knew all the printers and knew what they could do and what they specialized in, and paper suppliers. I mean, it was a whole world of graphic arts suppliers and colleagues and so on, almost all of whom are now no longer.
Sad how around. It disrupts the industry. It changes jobs. It makes things redundant. And you've often seen that happen during your career, I'm sure, where new tech's been introduced and it causes this impact. It threatens creativity. How do you feel about the rapid advancement of AI and programs like DALL-E, for example? Do you think creativity is under threat now, or do you see these things as tools that we'll all have to embrace?
I don't know Darling, but is that one where
DALL-E, as in Salvador Dali, but I think they spell it DALLE.
Yes, I think it's fantastic. I mean, what I've seen of it, I have no idea what it's going to.
I don't think any of us do.
No, I absolutely don't. But those first results that I've seen are just amazing. I couldn't wait to get a chance to try to use it. It's also, I have a sense it's going to happen quickly, but then that's going to be it because, something else will come which requires more thought.
Yeah, it's an exciting time, definitely. We've definitely seeing a huge rapid advancement. Have you ever seen people sort of fall behind and fail because they refuse to embrace, I don't know, computer technology, for example? Did they go off and do something completely different?
Well, I think everyone has to respond to these things as they feel comfortable. Sometimes it means changing what you're doing. I mean, the way we look at design that we do, and this is aside from things I might do personally or whatever, is that it's a problem-solving discipline. So we're always trying to define the problem, to understand the problem, and then to find solutions to that problem. So in that sense, the technology and so on are secondary, and you use what you can. We've certainly never been in the advance of the technology, but I think you use whatever tools you can. Many years ago, I'm talking about maybe the mid-'60s, I don't know. I had to give a talk in London at what's the big theater there, the big movie theater where
you're testing my knowledge now, Tom.
Yeah. Anyhow, but the whole point of my talk was about that we're trying to be sort of like magicians, and we have a bag of tricks, and you find the trick that, or trick is laying it down, but it was the idea that depending upon what the issue is, you have various things at your disposal, various ways of doing things that you could use to solve a design problem. And I don't think that's any different today in terms of approach. It's just the bag of tricks is very different, if you will.
It's a nice way to look at it. It'll be reassuring to many people listening and worried about their jobs. With that in mind, Tom, what do you think makes a great designer?
I think it's a combination of skill, or maybe I think also intelligence. I've found that all the really good designers that I know are also very bright. And they may work very differently, and their work may look very different. But whether they're designers or illustrators or typographers or whatever, there's an intelligence that comes about. And that's why I think it's a really interesting profession for young people to think about, not as stylists so much, even though I guess that applies in certain areas. But it's challenging and continually different. The challenges are different, and so on. So it can be very interesting, whatever aspect you're in, and there are so many aspects of it.
Definitely. Where are you focused on? What are you focused on right now, Tom? What are you excited about in the next sort of year?
Staying healthy and being able to continue doing
like the Bee Gees.
Like the Bee Gees, yes.
Well, you kind of, I think, it would be an insult to ask you why you've never felt the need to retire. I think you kind of answered that question previously when we were talking about mental health. I mean, do you feel like you would get bored if you sort of hung your pencil and paper up?
Yes.
is the simple answer.
I've also seen so many people who, after retiring, looking forward to it and for 6 months saying it's so great, and then pretty much disintegrating, especially men. Who have led very busy lives and suddenly have to think of reasons to go to the store to buy a loaf of bread or something just to keep busy. For someone who has many other interests and can stay active with those, it can be great. I guess it depends on your personality, but I find to be continually engaged. One of the things that we do, for example, in our projects, which we've always done, but even more so now, is to start out, we interview a lot of people. And we're working in many different fields. I mean, our clients are from many different areas. I find that really interesting. And the discussions are not about design. We're trying to understand the culture and the issues of why we've been brought in here. So there are a lot of things in the medical field and other fields and inventions and aviation and so on that I find very interesting. So it keeps you interested.
Oh, definitely. You've chosen the perfect industry. I mean, I hope you don't mind me saying so, Tom, but you've had 16 presidents in your lifetime. And 16?
Wow.
16 from Hoover to Roosevelt. Oh, no, since, so sorry, you started off with Hoover and Roosevelt, and here we are today with Biden.
Yeah.
Gosh, 16. Wow.
And you've only had one queen.
I know. That's so true. Do you ever think about leaving a legacy yourself, or is that something you try not to think about?
Yeah, pretty much.
Oh, well, I think this has been lovely, Tom, and I'm aware of the time. And I just want to thank you for chatting through some of your career highlights today and where your head's at. Before we go, do you have any advice that you want to share with younger designers who maybe want to stand out in what has become a very crowded sector?
Well, it has become extremely crowded, but it's also, enlarged. I mean, the scope of it has enlarged. So I don't know. But I would think that the same qualities and abilities and everything will allow you to stand out if you really, really enjoy it and you really work hard at it. I just think now there are so many more avenues and opportunities that go for it.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much, Tom.
Thanks, Katie.
To discover more about Tom Geismar, you can find everything you need via our show notes at creativeboom.com/podcast. That's where you can also hit subscribe and see our entire archive of episodes so far, including chats with Morag Meyerskoff, Oliver Jeffers and Gail Anderson. Next time, we'll chat with Michael Frymouth, the co-founder and creative director of Franklin, a respected design studio in New York. Have a great week, and we'll see you then.